Hi, my name's Rex Beeland and welcome to Tips and Techniques. This week we're going to take a look at the concept of value in painting, and it's in two parts. The first part we're going to actually look at what value means, and in the second part I'm going to do a little demonstration painting which is really just a value study. Let's take a look. Okay, to start off, we're just going to look at what value is. And the dictionary definition of value is the lightness or darkness of a color. Why are values important? To me, value is like the skeleton or framework of a painting. And if that value structure of the painting works, if it's a good value arrangement throughout the painting, that painting is going to work almost regardless of whatever color that you use. When we see a value scale completely done, instantly we recognize it because there's nothing difficult about understanding it. It is, however, very challenging to create one. So it's much more difficult to do this than it is to understand it. And as a result, it's extremely useful to do it. Okay, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a value scale with 5 values going from as dark as possible to white. So I'm going to choose a dark color, and I want to get most of the water out of my brush because dioxazine purple with very little water is a very dark value, approaching black even. So there's a very dark value of dioxazine purple. If I add some water to this, so there's a lighter value. I'm going to take some more water, and there's a lighter value. And the next one, there, and then I have white paper. Okay, what I have here is it's just a little study, a little scene, and I'm going to treat it as a value study. And because I want to focus entirely on value, I'm going to use a different color scheme. I'm going to use monochromatic color scheme, which means one color. And the reason for that is when I only have one color, I can only change value. I can't change the color. I am going to use one color, but I'm not going to use a straight out of the tube color. I'm going to actually use a quinacridone red, and I'm mixing it with its complement, which is Viridian, and I want to use this to get a very dark value of this mixture, and that's going to be my color. Okay, in this painting I'm going to start off with a light value of this mixture. So I'm just going to add water and get a light value of it. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So I'm going to do this building, I'm going to do this side here as this light value, and I'm just going to be take some pains to make sure the bottom of this wall is broken up there, so then it looks like it's actually sitting in grass. If I just do a straight edge there, it looks very unnatural. If I take a little of my darker mixture and just throw it in like that, I can still consider this a light value even though there's a little bit of a darker value in it, because overall it's basically light. And the reason I'm doing this is simply for interest's sake. A flat wash that is one value tends to be quite boring. This is, I'm hoping, going to add a little bit of interest to this. Then this back wall, I'm going to start off with a similar value. I'm going to paint it in, and I'm actually using this as a flat wash. I'm just going to get a wash of this. See this value, very, very similar to that. And I'm using that as a flat wash. I want this back wall to be overall a darker value. So I'm mixing some darker a darker value of this color. And I'm going to throw some in, let it run around. I'm going to tend to keep it over more to this side, except there's usually, a darker shadow under the overhang of the roof. So I'm going to take the same paint and I'm going to use the side of my brush. Hope you can see this. I'm going to use the edge of the brush here. I'm going to hold it parallel to the paper and I'm going to do some dragging. And this dry brush effect is very desirable. So I'm going to just kind of let it hang loose like that. Get some more. Take it off this way. And I probably am going to leave some of those holes there because they'll add interest again. And I'm going to leave this white, so I'm going to just create some grass-like shapes there. Again, with the side of my brush, just dragging it in. And in watercolor, when you do that, you create shapes that you couldn't paint. They have that randomness that nature has. Very effective way to do it. Again, it's one flat wash, so I'm going to just take some of my darker mixture, and particularly near the center of interest here, I'm going to add some accents, which I hope will, when they dry, will read as grass. Yeah. And now I'm going to take a value similar to this. Yeah. And I'm going to go and do the trees here. I probably don't need that much, so I'll take some of that back. Yeah. And again, I have this is going to stay white, so I have this dark value, and I don't want it to end and look phony. So if I kind of get a bit of a broken edge, I'm happy with that. Now I'm going to take this, and the other thing that's really useful, again, side of my brush here, and holding it parallel to the paper. Flicking the brush this way can give you tree shapes, again, that you can't paint. It's just, there's a randomness to it that's particularly attractive. So I'll do that. And another thing you can do is take it and point it this way and get some things happening. Now I'm just going to take this wash it. And so I'm going to add some dark accents in here. And push this. Yes. Okay, just want to punch that up right here and down here under the okay. And I think what I'll do is just basically do it in the same value. And this bit of the roof is going to end up white, so I want to be fairly careful to get a sharp edge there. You see, I can do by taking my brush sideways, I do get a tree-like shape, but to me not nearly as interesting as that. It's just harder to do this because I'm in a small area. Okay, so I'm going to add a bit of oomph to it, but I'm actually quite happy to have it a slightly lighter value than that. Now I have a distant mountain there, and that just moving a little bit to the red. That's it. So I'm trying to stay consistent with that one color, even though it's a mixture. And that, because this mountain is way in the background, I don't want to do very much to that at all. And because it's a lighter value, it's going to recede into the background. These darker values are going to come forward. So I'm going to take very little water. I've switched to a 1/2 inch flat. And I want to make this, yes, that's a very dark value. That definitely is the darkest value, which is just going to draw the attention right back where I want it. Over here, I'm just going to put in a couple of windows. And because I have a fairly similar value between the side of the building and this, and the building is what's important, I'm going to come in with this darker mixture and just add some highlights in here. Some real darks, a little bit under the overhang, and I'll add some over here. And there a little bit of dry brush, even though this is fairly, or it's not dry, it's still a little bit damp, but this paint is so thick that I can actually get this dry brush effect on it. Yeah. And since I have this, because these dark values are what are going to really attract the eye and move it around the picture, I don't want it to just stay in the building. So I'm going to add a little bit of in the grasses here. But I want to keep it fairly close to my center of interest. Okay, I'm adding more water now because I don't want just dry brush effect. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my rigger brush and take some of this real dark mixture, add a bit more, and just add a few bits of grass here and there. I'm going to take a medium value, so I'm staying away from that really dark puddle, taking this medium value, and I want a shadow under the roof. Take it right through that door. Because I have a wet wash here, it's a neat, it's a time when I can take my my little pocket knife here and do some scraping. Just to get a little bit of variety back there. And I'm going to try and leave, I'm going to leave the edge of this building white, just because then I'll have a very strong contrast between this dark and the white. And I'm going to actually take my brush and see if I can get a little dry brush effect. Yes. And over here I want it to be solid. And I think that is about all I'm going to do.
Glory, I'm headed for the big time.